Good evening, the comment. I am the con. Hopefully, have a very special guest with us, uh, uh, Kimberly Douglas.
Hello. Hello. Oh, let's see. Okay, but you can't see me.
It's not.
I wonder why. I have.
Well, we're having some technical difficulties, I guess, but you know, the comment does what the comment does. So we can delve into the NBA last night's game. Miami Heat, they threw on the damn thing. Playoff, the damn thing. Mike, you there?
I'm here, Mike.
What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm just waiting for our guests to come on, but you know, let's talk about last.
Michael, you're freezing.
Playoff Jimmy did it. Playoff Jimmy's doing the damn last.
Mike? Is Con having some issues?
He is, yes.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You just
I can
came down.
Yep.
For some reason, I can't get the camera to work, and I'm not sure why.
I know when you do come in, it does ask you if you want to, I don't know if you didn't access your camera or not. That could be a reason. I'm going to just come on here for a little bit. Mike, what's going on with you tonight?
Not too much. What's going on with you? Good to see you.
Nothing. It's just on my way home, So, yeah. But while Con is figuring out his configurations and all, and while his guest is getting her things together, what are you thinking about in the first round of the Western Conference Finals so far?
Well, I think it turns out to. I think what I expected was a tough matchup for the Lakers in dealing with Denver's best player. I'm not really sure they have an answer for him going forward. Even though Davis played well in the first game, I'm not really sure he's going to be able to carry that going forward. I think that's just a tough matchup for the Lakers in general. So I think 5 games, 6 games maybe they kind of roll through. I think.
They actually impressed me a little bit. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be a blowout. It was a blowout in the beginning, and they did fight back. They were talking about maybe Uchimura being inserted in the lineup,
right?
Because he actually did okay when Jokic he was in there on Jokic. He only scored 6 points, but the rebounding, Denver killed them on rebounds. Rebound alone, Joker killed them on rebounds alone in the first quarter.
Yep.
He had like 10 rebounds already with not even the quarter going on yet. So let's see. All right, got Con back in the building.
The command's in the building.
You good now, Con?
I hope so.
I had to.
Michael, you're still frozen, I think.
I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, he's lagging.
I don't know.
Oh no, you good? You good?
I'm good.
I think so.
Is our special guest here?
I think so.
No, she's not.
Let's see. Hold on.
I am here. You can't hear me.
She's here. So
my mic keeps going out, but I don't know why the camera won't open up.
So you might just have to talk to her, cam down, Con, but she's here.
I am here.
Okay, well, cool. Mike, about less than a week ago, I went online and I was scrolling down and I saw Kimberly Douglas, and she was doing her thing about the zodiac signs. And I'm like, let me see what this is all it was. Texted her. She said, zodiac sign. I said, fine. And then wow. I'm the only one in this room. And when she gave me her, I'm like, who's she talking to? Ain't nobody here but me. And she was fantastic. She was awesome. She has the skills that you people do not know. Anyway, Mike, what's going on with you, my brother?
Same old stuff, Mike. So everything's good. Still progressing with some projects, as you and I had talked about. Some interesting writings that I've been going through. So all's good.
Is Kimberly there? Oh, I guess. Technical difficulties here again. But anyway.
Well, see, can you hear me?
Yes.
There's a delay when it's my turn to speak. There'll be a delay before my mic gives me access. I'm watching this on the screen. So once it's my turn to speak, there's a little short delay, and then the mic will unmute itself, but the camera just won't work for some crazy reason. But I'm here. I can hear the whole thing.
Okay, Kim, let the viewers know what you do and how you started and how it just all originated and what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, so I am a psychic medium. I can connect to people who've passed away. I'm also clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient, which means that I have the ability to just know things with no explanation. I can feel the energy around me and coming from others. And I can also hear angels and my spirit guides talk to me. So I started reading for people probably in 2014, but I was born with this. So yeah, that's kind of the skinny.
All right, Kim, let me tell you something. Before I saw you online, I was very skeptical. So what can you tell me and the viewers to maybe not make us so skeptical?
Well, it's hard to convince somebody to believe in something they just don't. Because a lot of people want scientific facts. And unfortunately, with this, there isn't really any scientific facts. It just is what it is. The only way I'm able to convince anybody is to just give them a reading, and tell them things that there's no way I would have known. Like with you, there's no way when I did the reading with you yesterday, there was no way I would have known anything about your parents or your grandparents who have already deceased before you were even 20 years old. I wasn't even born yet. So for me to know that information and give it to you, that the proof is in the pudding, so yeah, there's no way I would have known that.
Now, when I checked you out, you have quite a extension of followers, and obviously they think that what you do is real, as I do, because when I was on your show yesterday, you said some things that I had no idea that you knew, but you did. So I'm a believer. I never was, but I'm a believer now. I got my guy Mike Samuel. This guy is amazing. So I want to let him chime in on what he has to say. Is that okay, Kim?
Absolutely.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Michael.
So you mentioned just now that you were born with this. So what was that like growing up? Or when did you know this? When did you know this? And what was it like growing up with this gift or these gifts?
Actually, it's interesting because when I was growing up from a child, I was under the impression that what I was able to do, everybody could do. They just didn't talk about it. Because I know that I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. That's for sure. I never felt comfortable in my own skin because I could feel, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I can feel everybody's energy in the room. And it becomes incredibly intense and incredibly uncomfortable. And honestly, I always just wanted to go run and hide and just be away from people, not realizing that I was picking up on their energy, especially around the age like 5 or 6. I spent a lot of time by myself because I just felt uncomfortable around people and I didn't know why. And as a kid, I didn't realize that this was energy that I was feeling. And instead, I interpreted that uncomfortable feeling with embarrassment. And so for some reason, I was feeling the sensation of embarrassment when really it wasn't. It was me just picking up on the energy of others. So it was a little bit lonesome growing up. And because I could read into people's intentions, you'd be surprised of how many people are really smiley in your face, but really are not that really feel that way behind you. It's incredible how lonely that can become. And so but I've always tried to, even though that was the case, I still always try to be compassionate towards people, because I also have the ability to see past people's transgressions. I have the ability to see people at a soul level, at their purest form. Even people who are in prison for murder, rape, I can still see them at their pure essence. So it's hard for me to stay angry at people. It's hard for me to stay critical toward people. I know when to stay away from them, but it's hard to keep a negative mindset about anybody, because I do see their pure essence. So it was very confusing growing up. The first experience I ever had with an actual spirit, I was probably 18 years. I was 18, not probably. I was 18, and I was having like a mental breakdown. I was pregnant for my very first child. I was just coming out of foster care, and it was really scary for me because I didn't have a solid teenage upbringing, because I was in and out of foster care. So when I became pregnant and 18, and I was kind of booted out of the system and left to my own devices, I kind of panicked and freaked out. At 15, I lost my grandmother. No, excuse me. At 13, I lost my grandmother, who passed away from triple bypass surgery, and really due to her not taking care of her diabetes. But when I was 18, I went into this crisis center because I had a breakdown. And while I was there, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I remember coming up out of the bedroom that they put me in, and I went into this sort of like library slash day room. I don't know what it was, but there was no television in there. It was just a really dark room that had books with bookshelves everywhere. The only entrance to the room was behind me, on the couch that I was sitting on. And so to my left and to my right, there were no doors, no entry. But from my right, in came a person that sat down beside me, who looked exactly like my grandmother. And it kind of creeped me out at first because, I don't know where she came from. But then she started like tapping me on my lap. She was solid. She wasn't an apparition, which was even more freaky. Because she started tapping me on my lap and was telling me that my baby was going to be just fine. But at the time, I was only 3 months pregnant. You couldn't tell that I was even pregnant. And then she told me that she heard the doctor say that she passed away from having, she had triple bypass surgery and she was diabetic. And the doctor told her, she heard the doctor say that she passed away, but she didn't believe them. And in that moment, I knew that that was my grandmother here sitting with me, and it completely freaked me out. I got out of that room and I hauled ass. I hauled ass out of there so fast. And I never told anybody that. I think I might have told one person, but I didn't tell anybody about that experience until way later because it really freaked me out. So every once in a while I'll have experiences like that. That was probably the most intense. But now I'll probably sometimes when she's around, I'll smell her cologne really strongly and, stuff like that. But I don't get visits anymore from like apparitions, or thank God, because they're creepy. Even though I do this work, I don't like that. It's scary. So, yeah.
Now, Kim, I'm gonna try to put you to the test.
Oh boy.
I gotta do what I do. You know me.
Okay.
Mike, what is your zodiac sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Oh, Gemini.
Just like me. Figure that out.
Well, my husband's a Gemini, guys. So, yeah, Gemini's it tonight. All right. Air sign. God, you guys, the battle of the mind. So, what is it you want me to do? Just read for Gemini in general, or read for Michael? What test are you putting me at? What test are you giving me?
You kind of read for me already. I want to see what you can do for my man Mike Semio.
All right, Mike. Okay. All right, give me a second so I can try to tune into your energy. You're kind of skeptic, aren't you?
Sure, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
I can tell. I think you're a little bit more skeptical than your friend Michael here because your energy is a little harder to tune into, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you're a private person as well. So let me try. No guarantees. There's never a guarantee in this. You're a pretty easygoing guy, Michael. You're pretty easygoing. You usually see the cup as half full instead of half empty. You're pretty optimistic. That's the way you like to look at life. And it's not to say you don't have your own issues or worries. It's just you really try to see the positive side of things rather than the negative. It's actually hard for you to understand how people can see the negative side of things rather than the positive. And I think in your mind, it's just simpler to look at things in a more positive way. And I think you try to teach people that in your own way. You may not use those words necessarily, but I think you try to get people to see things from a different perspective. And for some reason, I don't know why I'm seeing this. I feel, do you have a large front yard?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing you outside. Well, maybe not presently. Maybe this is something that I'm seeing in the past, but I'm seeing a large front yard, but I'm seeing, there's something about football with you. I don't know what it is, but I'm seeing something about football. Is that making sense? And I'm seeing this in a front yard, probably when you were younger growing up, but I'm seeing football in a White House. I see a White House and I see a grassy front lawn, but, not making sense.
As a young kid, really small, football with my dad.
Okay, yeah. Because this feels
4,
fun.
5, 6 years old.
This feels fun. Oh, yeah, well, we can go back to your previous life if you want.
Yeah.
But this feels fun. I feel like this is a nostalgic thing. Like this is something that you probably have fond memories about. I think this is why this is coming up. Is your dad still around? Is your dad still here?
Yes.
Okay. All right, give me a second. Because there's a reason this is coming up. Do you have something coming up with your dad?
I do. This weekend.
Okay. What's that?
This weekend.
Yeah, okay. This is probably what this is relating to. Hold on. Do you have children too?
No.
You don't have any?
No.
Because I'm getting 2 children. Is this your dad that had 2 children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Is this a boy and a girl? Do you have a sister?
I did have a sister, yes.
Okay. She passed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, all right. Hold on. This is not an easy topic. Okay. This is difficult. Oh, okay. This is a heavy, actually. Give me a second. Because the sadness that I'm feeling, I don't know if this is more recent because of the sadness that I'm feeling. The sadness I'm feeling is very real, which is confusing me on how recent this is. So because how real this sadness feels, I want to say this was more of a recent passing. I could be wrong, but it just feels very present.
It's not recent.
Okay.
But you're accurate about my feelings on that. So that's
Okay.
not something. It's not something that over time I get better with. It is, that was my
Right.
sister. So that's, obviously difficult. And it's, it's been a number of years.
It's about 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that kind of, the way that I feel it in my body, because I feel, I also, like I said, I take on the energy. So I feel the person. This is something that I feel like, even though it's sort of like you walk around with this poker face, but underneath the surface, there's like the sorrow that just never seems to go away. It's just always present. You've learned how to work around it, but it just seems always present. meaning like if your mind would go to that time, there's an immediate sadness that comes up.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
true.
just forever present.
True.
And I think you know, I feel like you're in two minds of this. I feel like with you, there's part of you that would like to get rid of that, but then there's another part of you that feels like if you did, then the memory of her would be gone. And so I think there's a part of you that sort of protects that sadness in a way. There's a sort of you, part of you that kind of feels like as long as the sadness is present, so is she.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's interesting you say something about that because there has been for me, I've actually had to carry that, and I have been the voice to that because when she passed, not many close to her or close to me or close to my family knew.
Oh, okay.
So when that topic comes up, I'm the voice.
I understand.
And so I carry that with me all the time. And I
Yeah.
carry that with me in various situations. And I know to some extent that may be discussed in what I have, the issue I have with my father this weekend, which is a happy occasion, but I know there is going to be something that's going to come up where I'm going to have to address that.
Right. You know, it's interesting because it's funny that that you've been skeptical about this because this actually, and I know that you've battled with the fairness of this, like how unfair this was. And maybe the questions of why have popped up. And why maybe you play the role that you play in this. And I really feel like that has a lot to do with your own soul's growth. I feel like as when you take yourself and you compare yourself to like the rest of your family, I would I feel like you are I feel like you're different. I feel like you're different than anybody in your family. Sort of like I'm trying to find the words. The voice of reason. And the one person, and I'm saying the one person because I don't feel like anybody else in your family has this ability to the extent that you do, where you're able to get people to see things from a different perspective. So I feel like for you, this was really part of a journey for you, because I feel like this has forced you to look at life differently, look at spirituality differently, look at yourself differently, how people operate, how people think, how people love, how people connect. I feel like this has forced you, this whole experience has forced you to look at things differently. So I think because it has forced you to look at things differently, it's also your job to get people in your family to try to look at things differently. So her passing actually served a purpose in your life, a more greater purpose than you may have realized, which is why you have a heavier impact with it than anybody else did.
Mm.
Yeah. There's
And
actually a
going
spiritual.
back to your point about fairness, absolutely. That I've had that conversation with myself, and I've had that conversation with my dad and my wife
Mm,
about, not so much how come I have this, but it has been, and the one conversation, or I shouldn't say one of the first conversations I had with my dad when she passed, and I had these feelings about this, and I told him, and his response to me was, your mother did that on purpose. Your mother knew you could carry it. And I was like, oh, okay.
mm, yeah.
So that was a bit startling for someone who has been, my mom and dad have been divorced now for a number of years. And so for him to actually see that was surprising and startling for me. We were at lunch when we were actually celebrating my sister, and
Right.
when he said that, and I was really caught off guard when he said it.
Mm. Does it make sense that your sister considered you her best friend?
No,
Okay.
we had a complicated relationship for various reasons, and
Okay.
I think
Is she
not to
quiet?
go long on this, but I think from my end or from her end, there was always something missing,
I
and
understand.
never really being able to kind of circle back to that and figure out what that was. We were different people, different interests, and those things became further expanded as we got older.
Yeah,
And
because I want to say with your sister, because she's kind of coming through, but there's a reluctance too. If and that might make sense to you why there would be one. Um, but I feel like, see, and if I get this wrong, I would love for you to tell me that. Because I feel like, uh, you know, I worry about saying the wrong things because I never want to be offensive, and this wouldn't be offensive to you, I don't think. But I feel like with her, there's a bit of shame or embarrassment. That's the way it feels to me, and I don't know why she would feel that way when it comes to coming through, but I get that sense. So I feel like there's a little bit of reluctance with her when it comes to connecting here. Um, because I feel like, see, the way I'm picking her up is that she's quiet, not very talkative, but I don't think that's true. I feel like that's just how she is being right now. Is that correct?
yeah, Christy was my wife and I were just talking about this the other night. Christy, from the time I can remember, was noisy and talkative, and from a very young age.
Yeah.
And yeah, Christy, for I'm not sure why,
Oh, you
or
know what?
just
I'm sorry. I don't ever mean to cut you off. It's just as I'm getting something, if I don't say it, it'll leave. But I'm getting something with like a disorder. Did she have I don't know if it was bipolar or something like that, like a mental disorder?
no. There was nothing that was diagnosed, and I don't mean to put it that way, but there was nothing that was documented. There were some issues with her in general,
Okay.
that sort of manifested itself as to her early passing, right? So there's some of that comes out, and so just real quick back to the situation of Christy feeling ashamed. So there were a number of issues through Christy's life where there were comparisons made from me to her. And Michael, you and I have almost talked about this a couple of times.
Yes.
So that's some of the stuff that I wrote the other day. Some of it I did write. So there is that where she sort of fought those comparisons, which I can completely understand. But then there were some situations where she tried to hold herself accountable to those, which was weird. That I didn't even know that she felt that way, and I heard that from my mother on a number of occasions. So, and that's sort of our relationship has been that tug where it's been, she's my sister, and and I'll just real quick being referred to Michael in our circles, right, as Michael Semio's sister, right, either through school and teachers or through athletics, and that was really hard for her. That was really
Right.
hard for her to kind of wrap her head around, and I couldn't do anything for that. And it was not anything that anybody promoted, but it just was.
So she
And
kind of felt like she was walking in your shadow.
well, I don't know if it was walking in my shadow, but being referred that way was hard
Right.
for her. And and that became
Oh,
sort of
sort of
one
like
of
she didn't have her own identity.
in those circles, yeah.
Right.
And
I
so
understand.
it was trying to cope with that. And again, we're young kids trying to go through this. And for me, a lot of it was sort of immediate how it happened. And and Michael and I have talked about this where it's not just me going through all what I went through, it was my family too. And my family, it's new to everyone. You don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to cope with some of this. And
Right.
Michael, you and I talked, and I mentioned this to my wife and my father the other day that, there's a certain point where, and I don't mean to be dramatic here, but there's a certain point in my life when you saw that article in the newspaper when I was in junior high, Michael. When that happens, my life is never the same again.
Nope.
And
It won't be.
that's everyone. And again, not to blow myself up here and pat myself on the
No, of
back of my
course.
ego, but that was pretty stark of walking through that door and having to deal with what was on the other side.
Right. Right. Totally understand that. Yeah. Yeah, excuse me. Excuse me. Mm, yeah, I definitely feel that sadness hovering though. What a position to be in, especially at a young age. That's tough. Oh, I'm trying to see if I can tune in more to your energy. Hmm. Some people are harder to read for than others, and it really just depends on how open or closed off they are to it. Um, so let me see. Hmm. Do you have something big coming up? Like, I feel like I don't know if these are plans or ideas or something that you've got in the works because I'm hearing big things coming. That's what I'm hearing is big things coming. Do you have something that you're planning like right now that you're working on?
Yes.
Because your guides are really excited about this. They're really excited. It's almost like it's like okay, so you have three guides around you and they're all standing there like with their hands up like ah like hooray hooray, it's sort of like that, and they're talking about the big things that you have coming up. um they're really excited about it. Whatever this is, it's going to be successful. um I think you weren't sure.
I continue to be not sure.
Yeah.
As much time as I spend with it, I still have this side of me. I'm like, okay, is anybody going to be interested in this, or is it just going to
Are
be
you
my
doing
own
a lot of
circle of friends?
writing? Like, are
Hmm?
you doing a lot of writing with your planning? Is there a lot
I,
of writing?
yes, there is a
Yeah,
lot of writing. Yes.
yeah, because I can see you sitting at a desk. And yeah, um,
Yeah.
are you left-handed?
No.
You're not. I don't know
No.
what's up with the left hand. I don't know why they said anything left hand and why. I don't know why that's relevant at all, but we'll move on. So, but I see you sitting at a desk and doing a lot of writing. And mm, I think you get so caught up in this that you lose hours. Like like
Hmm.
at night, you're like, oh damn, I didn't even realize it was that late, and kind of like put it away. But this is big and this is gonna be successful. It is gonna be successful. It's gonna go well. Okay, because they're telling me you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. That's what you're going back and oh, you probably have Virgo heavy in your chart or Virgo surrounding you. I don't know what that's about, but um hold on. Are you giving yourself a time limit or is there something about time with this?
Yes, there is. Well, for me, there is. I've put a clock on myself to it's to a certain stage with this and you know,
They're
trying to
saying
move
that's
forward with
actually
it. Sorry.
it's really smart. They're saying that was really smart of you to do. Um to give yourself it's almost like you're setting this up in stages. I don't know how to describe that.
No, you're actually that's true. That's exactly what I've done is try to go through certain stages of this, and some of it's very long, some of it's very time consuming to go through this. But yeah, I've set a clock. I am going through, there are different stages that I'm going through. To some extent, I thought maybe I've created too many and made it more complicated than what it should be. But I have a side of me that I want this to be good, and
Yeah.
as good as I can make it before I try to hand it off to a
Yeah, because they're
professional.
showing me like a portfolio or a business plan or something to that effect is or at least that's what they're relating this to, your work that's being put in.
Hmm.
Because I know a business plan can be very time consuming, but I feel like, yeah, it's like it's categorized the way that you're doing this in the steps that you're taking and your outline and then
Hmm.
executing everything in your outline. And like there's a lot of detail involved in this, but they're actually saying what's helping you with this is I feel like your work area is organized. They're showing me a very organized work area. Not because I feel like it has to be, because if it's not, then your brain is just going to be disorganized. So, like you're very careful with your planning in this. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, but there's something more to this that they're trying to shine a spotlight on that I'm not grasping. Give me a second. Hmm. Have you beat yourself up over this because of the time it's taking, and like the time away from the family to do this? Does that bother you, or has it been an issue, or something that's, I don't know, but I'm seeing that, like, um, or maybe hoping it doesn't. I'm not sure how this is related time wise.
No, I think I've been pretty good with it as far as trying to dedicate time and not take time away from things. And to answer your question about beating myself up, sure, that
Mm,
I'm always questioning, because this is my first venture doing this. I'm always questioning, is it any good? And trying to make sure, again, I don't, aside from some people, including Michael, that have read some of what I have documented and written,
mm,
I've been very careful for various reasons to make sure that it's a small group. It's a group
right.
that I feel comfortable with about looking at what I've done.
Mm,
And I haven't built up enough. I'm still thin skinned on this as far as someone reading it and coming back to me on something. And that's been a very small group that has done that. But when it goes to a professional, I have to really kind of sit up straight and listen, and hopefully I'm able to not take it personally. But yeah, sure, I beat myself up on this, but it's not gone anywhere else but just me. And I haven't, there's been no sacrifice on any other end with my family or business or anything
oh,
like
good.
that. I've been very careful not to do that, but it does put some stress on trying to find time where I think I need it, and trying to get things done. Because one of the things that's happened is I've gotten better at doing what I'm doing, but there is still a portion of this which is requiring me to edit some of this, which is super time consuming, and it
Yeah.
is really tough to do. And I'm all for it, but I don't look forward to going through that. And I've taken the stance where I'm just going to write. And when
Mm,
I'm done, then I'm going to go back and edit. Because I found if I was writing and then trying to edit, I was just really angry with myself trying to get that finished. And I couldn't get it done the way I wanted to. But
mm,
I'm setting myself up down the line here where it's going to be really time consuming to go through and do that.
right. Okay. Yeah. Because I feel like, um, excuse me, I feel like whatever it is that you're working on, it feels, mm, it feels like this thing in some way sets the next stage in your journey. Um, um, see if I can try to tap into what I'm picking up with that. It's funny. I think I feel like this is something that you're protecting, obviously, but I feel like whatever it is that you're working on, there's a reluctance in sharing with certain people, and I feel like I get little information to sort of protect the privacy that's surrounding this, because I feel like there's privacy surrounding this, whatever this is, this project. Um, and I feel like whatever this is also has a feeling of trust with this, trusting people, being able to trust certain people with this information. Does that make sense?
It
It,
does. It does, because there is a pretty large section which I have not written. I have not discussed with anyone except my wife.
Mhm.
And so the trust aspect really comes from whenever I'm done and this gets published, and
Mm,
then trusting everyone,
right.
that's going to read this, that, again, it's my story, right? So it's trusting the fact of, and a lot of the people that may read this, and I know this from stat, Michael doesn't know. Michael doesn't know this part of this story. And
this is hard for you.
It is.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it very much is, because it does. There's a lot of exposure to this.
So I feel like you're looking at this sort of like bungee jumping. Like this is a fear, something that you feel like you need to get out, but there's a fear of backlash, maybe. And I don't know if that's the right word, but it's almost like taking the plunge, like screw it, I have to do this because this feels like, it almost feels like if you don't do this, you'll feel imprisoned by it. Does that make sense?
Well, there is a sense to this where I have, when I started doing this, it was really just coming from different conversations I was having with different people. And I'm the one that decided to grow this and make it a larger commitment. And when I did that, I sort of knew where this would go. And I could avoid it. I could go around it. I could not deal with it. But, part of this is once, and I mentioned this to Michael at one point, there's a side of me that is scared to do this because I visited this in my head. I haven't put it down on paper. There is this side of me that does want to get it out. And part of it is just because this is my story. Right. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can. And there is nobody behind me pushing me to tell me to be honest and go in this direction and do that. It's just me. Right. And I think it's a worthwhile story to get out because I do think that one of the things that I've been sort of bouncing around in my head is maybe this helps someone, right? Maybe it helps someone that has similar fears, similar situations, and coming out the other side and what that looks like. And so I'm trying to do, I hope to do that without sort of falling down on it. I don't think I will, but there's that concern with me of, there's some of this. And to be honest, there's probably only my wife and my dad who know most of it. And that's it. There's nobody else.
And they're really supportive. And I feel like this is going to be liberating for you. It's definitely going to be liberating. I feel a sense of liberation with this. But I also feel like even it's funny the way fear works. It's the fear that's driving you, but it's also the fear that makes you want to pump the brake. But I feel like I do feel like this is going to be more successful than you think. But I think it's tough to convince you of that.
Well, part of it is, telling this story and getting it out there, right? So I can tell the story, I can talk about it, but then when you put it out in context where it is now enclosed in a document that everyone can access, there's a side of me where I'm fearful of having to revisit that story with any success over and over again. Right. So that's the dichotomy that I'm running up against of, do I go through with this? Do I write do I write my story? Do I get dirty with what needs to come out on this? That's the right terminology. And then acknowledging the fact that I'm probably going to have to deal with those topics that are problematic to me. Anytime someone wants to talk, if anybody really wants to talk about the book, would be those topics.
That's interesting because I have been debating myself whether I want to write a memoir about my story, because I could totally write a book, but I'm afraid of doing that and the people that could possibly be hurt. And so, I thought about, should I wait until all the people that I feel like it could hurt are gone, or like dead and gone, or to write, Or do I write a fictional book and put fictional characters just to be able to tell my story? Or do I get bold enough to get out there and take the risk that there's going to be backlash and probably lawsuits, And so, I don't. And so I've pumped the brakes myself. So I think that whatever it is you're doing is really bold. It's really brave. And I feel like you're being guided to do this because I feel like this is something that's probably kept you up at night before you actually dove into it. I think there's a lot of time and thought before you actually took a step with a lot of reluctance. Should I, shouldn't I, shouldn't I? And probably had a hard time going to sleep at night before you started working on the project before you started it. Probably had a hard time with sleep, because it would be on your mind. I feel like this is something that you were and you may argue it, but I feel like this is something that you were spiritually guided to do, like almost like a push, something that you can't, sort of like a pregnant girl needing a pickle, like you craved it. Like there's something that pulled you to do this. And I feel there's a spiritual reason behind it.
It's interesting you say all of that because part of my ego is I like talking about this story. And Michael and I have talked hours on this, right? And
yes, indeed. Yes.
Different stuff that we have in common coming out of these stories. And I bought into just, again, as I said earlier, just different conversations where people were sort of nudging me. Well, you should write a book. Oh, you should write a book. And I went down the same path, Kim, as you, as far as, and this was something my dad had said, well, why don't you make it a fictional story and create that whole environment, but tell the story. And from my end, I'm not really concerned about any lawsuits because I'm not naming names. I am just telling my story. I am telling what I know has happened through time. There are few names in here. They're just names. I am not categorized. I am not creating any other malicious or unintended characters. There's no character assassination here at all. It is just the situations. Some may figure it out that have been close to me, that were part of my life at that time. But I am careful not to name names in some of this critical stuff. And I think my wife is probably the only person at this point who knows who's who.
Right.
But nobody else does. So I went down that road, Kim, as far as what to do and how to do it. So I've been careful about how I do this. And that's, as you mentioned, pumping the brakes on some of this. Well, it's just the fact of when do I get there? When do I get to this point where, to be honest, I've written sort of around it. I've written, and Michael has seen some of it, where I've written some of the stuff that was after these situations, as I'm approaching certain time frames. So I've done things that I've written just before these situations occurred. I've written just after it, but I haven't written those situations yet. And I don't know, I don't know. I'm not really sure when I get there as far as how I actually deal with it myself. And kind of just as you mentioned earlier, it is private. And this is the weird thing of it's been private for a long time. And then now I'm going to say, okay, here it is. Here's the situation. And I'm curious. Once, as I said earlier, I'm curious as to reactions to some of this, and then I'm not. I'm like, well, this is just my story, and it's not out there for anyone to be really concerned about, except the fact of I don't know how to tell my story without not including this.
Right. And yeah, because it almost feels like see, the way I'm seeing it, it's almost like you have this chain around your wrist that is chained to a wall. and this mask, and it's like this mask, I see you taking this mask off, like this is the reveal. And I feel like by revealing this, it actually loosens the chain that has you attached to the wall. Like this is the imagery that I'm seeing. They give me a lot of metaphors, like or symbolism when they're speaking to me. So I feel like writing this project that you're working on, like I said earlier, it almost feels like a sense of liberation. Once this is finally out, there's almost like this exhale, like, whew, it's done. It's done, and I really feel like it's going to go better than you're anticipating. I do feel that way. I do feel like it's going to go better than you're anticipating. I think you're going to get more support than you're anticipating. And I feel like once this is said and done, you may not be able to see it now, but once this is said and done and it's out there, I feel like it's going to feel liberating. I do. I really feel like you're going to feel liberated. But this is definitely taking a lot of inner strength. And I don't feel like anybody, I think your support team understands the strength that it's taking, probably. But I think that nobody really, really understands the strength that this is taking, if that makes sense. Like this is probably one of the biggest things that you've decided to do in your life. It's probably.
Well, you mentioned earlier about me being a private person.
Right.
I am. And that's why the dichotomy here is I'm writing something that is not going to be private.
Right. You're totally exposing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the mask that I see coming off that has you chained and bound. Like this thing that you're protecting, this thing that you're private about actually has you chained in some way, has you bound in some way, which is why writing this is going to be liberating. Even though you're private, it's like you're testing your own boundaries. You're really taking this plunge, like this bungee diving, it's like this, you never know when you take that plunge if that cord is strong enough, if this could be the one time that cord snaps. But there's a risk behind this for you. There's a huge risk for you. And I don't feel like I feel like it's going to go well. I really do feel like it's actually going to open you up more. It's actually going to open you up more. I mean, you'll remain private, for the things that you want to stay private about, but it's also going to open you up. It's sort of like I said, this liberation, this freedom is what I'm feeling for you. And you may not be feeling that now because of all the tension or all the anxiety attached to this. But when this is said and done, you heard it here first. This is going to have a liberating sense. It truly is. Oh, I'm excited for you. Your guides are excited. They're super excited. So yeah, but that's kind of what I'm getting for you, really. I'm not picking up much more.
Well, Kimberly, I want to thank you for coming on the show. This is a sports show on a sports network. I felt it was very important for you to come on and let people judge for themselves whether they are skeptic or not. I know for a fact you told me some things about me and had me look about myself. And I'm sure people who tune in get the opportunity to look at themselves. And I felt that this is the most important thing. Now, Kimberly, how can people get in touch with you? Because I know what you do.
Right.
And you go through all this. I already been there, done that. We already know how I roll. But can you let the people know how they can get in touch with you?
Sure.
And,
I have a website. It is www.kimsbutterflyeffect.life. It's KIMS with no apostrophe, obviously, but it's KimsButterflyEffect.life. People can go up there and book a reading with me. Right now, unfortunately, because the industry that I'm in, not many credit card companies support this industry because in some states, believe it or not, it is still considered illegal, which is crazy to me. I know. So because of that industry, not all credit card companies will support what it is that I do. So right now on my website, the only payment I can accept for anybody who's looking to book a reading with me is through PayPal. So anybody with a PayPal account, and it's easy to set up, can book with me there. But I'm also on Facebook as Kimberly Douglas. I have a YouTube channel as well, Kim's Butterfly Effect. I don't do much on Instagram, but I need to. But yeah, these are the three main platforms that I'm on. So that's how they can get in touch with me. And anybody can message me and I'll get back to them as soon as I have time to get back to them. Yeah, I'm pretty busy all the time. So yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for bringing me up here. I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Well, Kimberly, you know,
I'm exhausted at this point. By the way,
you know,
I bet.
I think I felt yesterday on
Yeah.
You know, Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I guarantee a lot of people are going to be very enthusiastic, and hopefully they will contact you. And anything else that Mike and I can do to support you, we will do it because that's what we do on our show.
Thank you so much. I'm so humbled and grateful that you brought me up here. I'm so grateful. Really. I appreciate you so much, guys. I do.
Thanks, Kim.
This was big for me. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I enjoyed you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all for tuning in to Sports Corner with the Con Man, with my partner, Mike Semio. Tune in next week as we will have Robert Bobby Reed, All Ball, Chicago, and we're going to get back into the basketball things that we normally do. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Take care and God bless. Mike, take care, my brother.
Hey, Mike, take care.